In a world bound by routine, one shepherd dares to follow a star, embarking on a journey through deserts, mountains and shadows to uncover the light within his soul. A light that will change him and those he meets forever. Elias had always lived a quiet life in Bethlehem, a small village nestled in the hills of Judea. The village, surrounded by groves of olive trees and fields of golden wheat, was home to farmers, shepherds and craftsmen. Life here was humble, simple and steady, just as everyone expected it to be. Elias was raised by his grandfather, a man of strong values and few words. From him, Elias learned the art of shepherding and the virtue of patience. His days were spent guiding his flock, finding green pastures and water for them, and protecting them from the occasional wild animal that prowled in the hills. Yet as the years passed, Elias began to feel a growing emptiness within him, a hollow space that the daily rhythms of village life could not fill. He often spent his nights lying on the hills, gazing up at the stars, feeling a yearning he couldn't explain. One night as he lay on a hillside, a single star caught his eye. It was brighter than any other, almost mesmerizing. He watched it in awe, feeling as if it was calling to him, urging him to look beyond the hills, beyond the life he had always known. "Why do you look so troubled, Elias?" asked Miriam, his friend from the village, as they walked together back home one evening. Miriam had been his friend since childhood, and they shared many quiet conversations about life and dreams. Elias hesitated, unsure of how to explain. "There's a star," he began slowly, "and I feel it calling me. I don't know why, but something inside me says I must follow it." Miriam looked at him with curiosity, a glimmer of concern in her eyes. "Elias, do you really believe a star could call you away? Or could it be something within you?" Over the next few days, Elias found himself unable to shake the feeling that he needed to leave Bethlehem. The star appeared each night as bright as ever, filling him with a longing he couldn't ignore. He began to make preparations, packing only the essentials and entrusting his flock to his cousin, Caleb, a young and eager shepherd. The village gathered to see him off, though most of them didn't understand his decision. Some whispered that he was chasing foolish dreams, that he was throwing away a good life. Others looked at him with pity, convinced he'd return soon, tired and disillusioned. "Be safe, Elias," Miriam said softly, her eyes misty. "I don't understand why you must go, but I hope you find what you're looking for." Elias smiled at her, though he felt a pang of sadness leaving his only friend behind. "I don't know what I'll find, but I feel I have no choice. Something greater calls me, Miriam. I hope one day you'll understand." With one last look at Bethlehem, Elias set off, guided by the distant glow of the star. The journey was not easy. Elias's path led him through rocky hills and barren plains where the sun beat down relentlessly. The nights were cold and the silence was thick, often broken only by the howling of distant animals. Each night, he looked up, reassured by the sight of the star, which remained constant, a beacon that guided him forward. But the road grew lonely and doubts began to creep in. He missed the warmth of his village, the comfort of familiar faces. One night, as he sat by a small fire, he found himself wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. "What am I doing?" he muttered to himself. "I left everything behind. For what? A star?" Just as despair began to settle over him, Elias heard the sound of footsteps. He looked up to see a man approaching, his clothes tattered, his face worn with fatigue. The man introduced himself as Ezra, a traveling storyteller who had lost his way. They shared a meal, and Ezra spoke of lands Elias had never seen, places of great beauty and wonder. As the fire crackled, Ezra looked at Elias with a knowing smile. "You seek something, don't you?" Elias nodded, unsure of how much to reveal. "I follow a star. It calls to me, though I don't know where it leads." Ezra laughed softly. "The journey itself is the answer, Elias. We find ourselves in the steps we take, in the people we meet. Follow your star. It may just lead you home, but a different home than the one you left." His words struck a chord in Elias, offering him a new perspective. When he woke the next morning, Ezra was gone, but his message lingered, filling Elias with renewed purpose. As Elias moved on, the landscape transformed into a vast, arid desert. The sand stretched endlessly, and the sun scorched everything in its path. His water supply ran low, and he was forced to ration it carefully. With each step, the heat weighed down on him, draining his energy and resolve. One day, nearly overcome by thirst, Elias stumbled upon a young woman named Salma. She was resting in the shade of a large boulder, her skin blistered from the sun. She had been lost for days, her water long gone. Despite his own exhaustion, Elias shared his water with her, helping her regain her strength. "Why would you do this?" Salma asked, bewildered by his generosity. "You barely have enough for yourself?" Elias shrugged, though he felt a warmth within him. "We're both lost trying to survive. Kindness is all we have out here." Together, they journeyed to the next oasis, where they found water and shelter. Salma thanked him and they parted ways. Elias realized that his journey was not just about following the star, it was about finding compassion and strength within himself. After the desert, Elias found himself in a dense forest. The trees loomed above him, blocking out the light. Shadows flickered around him, filling him with a sense of dread. The star was hidden from view, and for the first time he felt truly lost. As night fell, he came across a small group of travelers who had lost their way. They huddled together, their faces filled with fear. Among them was a young girl named Naomi who clung to her father, trembling. Elias joined them, and together they shared stories by the fire, comforting one another in the dark. Naomi looked up at Elias, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Why did you leave your home, mister?" Elias smiled at her innocence. "I follow a star. It's hard to explain, but I believe it will lead me to something important." Naomi's father, a man named Joseph, looked at Elias thoughtfully. "Perhaps your journey is meant to lead you here, to guide us out of this forest?" The next morning, Elias led the group through the trees, using the faint light of dawn as his guide. When they finally reached the edge of the forest, the travelers thanked him, their gratitude filling him with a sense of purpose. The forest gave way to a range of rugged mountains. The air grew thin and the climb was steep, each step a struggle against gravity. As he ascended, memories of his life in Bethlehem surfaced. His grandfather's words, the laughter of the villagers, Miriam's concerned gaze. He felt the weight of what he had left behind, and a pang of homesickness filled him. At the summit, he met a solitary figure, a woman named Leora who had chosen to live in isolation. Leora was stern, her eyes hardened by years of solitude. She saw Elias's hesitation, the fear etched on his face. "Why do you climb this mountain?" she asked. Elias struggled to answer. I follow a star. But I wonder if I've lost my way." Leora studied him, her gaze piercing. "The way is within, not without. Fear is a shadow, Elias. You must face it if you are to find your light." Her words echoed in his mind as he continued down the mountain, his doubts easing with each step. He realized that his journey was as much an inner path as it was a physical one. As he descended into a lush valley, Elias came across a village in mourning. Their leader, an elderly woman named Zara, had recently passed, leaving a void in their hearts. The people were lost, clinging to the memory of their beloved elder. Moved by their sorrow, Elias decided to stay and help, offering comfort where he could. He shared the story of his journey, speaking of the star that guided him. His words touched the villagers, giving them a sense of hope. One young man, Aaron, approached Elias, his voice choked with emotion. "I lost my mother too," Aaron said, his eyes wet with tears. "How do you keep going when you feel so empty?" Elias placed a hand on Aaron's shoulder. "I don't have all the answers, but I believe that even in our darkest moments, there is a light within us that guides us forward." Through his time in the village, Elias discovered a new purpose: to help others find their own light, to share the strength he had found within himself. Elias's journey continued, leading him through treacherous lands where storms raged and shadows loomed. He felt the weight of his journey pressing down on him, the constant challenges eroding his resolve. One stormy night, as he sought shelter in a cave, he shouted at the heavens, his voice raw with frustration. "Why have you brought me here? Why do I suffer?" But in the silence that followed, he felt a gentle warmth within, as if the star's light had settled in his heart. He understood that he was never truly alone. The light he sought was a part of him, guiding him even when he could not see it. After weeks of wandering, Elias arrived at a grand city, bustling with life and filled with wonders he had never imagined. Here he met a young scholar named Samuel, who was searching for wisdom but found himself feeling empty. Samuel looked at Elias, noticing his quiet strength. "You seem to carry something I've been searching for my whole life. What is it?" Elias smiled, his gaze gentle. "The wisdom you seek cannot be found in books or cities. It is a journey, a path only the heart can take." His words resonated with Samuel, and they spent the night talking, sharing their dreams and fears. In this city, Elias felt that his journey was nearing its end, that he had found the light he had been searching for. Elias finally returned to Bethlehem, greeted by familiar faces and the warmth of home. He was a changed man, his heart filled with peace and wisdom. The villagers gathered around, eager to hear his story. He spoke of the star that had guided him, of the people he had met, and the lessons he had learned. One young child asked, "Did you find what you were looking for?" Elias nodded, his heart full. "Yes. The light I sought was within me all along." We all carry a star within, a light that guides us even in the darkest times. As the villagers listened, they felt a profound peace, knowing that they too carried a light within, a star to guide them home. And from that day forward, Elias became a guide, helping others find their own path, their own star. In the years that followed, Elias's story became a legend in Bethlehem, a tale of hope and courage. His journey inspired countless others to seek the light within, to follow their own path, even into the unknown. And as each generation passed, the story of Elias, the shepherd who followed the star, continued to shine, a beacon of faith, a testament to the power of inner light. This is end of the story. Comment Amen if you believe in Jesus' blessings. Please like this video and subscribe this channel for more Jesus story like this. May the God watch over you.